Hey guys! In this video we are going to be learning about reports. Reports are the main way that we communicate with parents and students about their progress, how they're doing, what's going on in class, and all that jazz. So it's really important for the parents to be able to have that information, and students also use it just to track their progress. Often students will ask us, hey, how do I get to the next level on this particular skill? And that's really useful for us to engage with them and to talk about, well, here's how you can advance, right? Especially if they're asking, it's probably because they really are maybe a bit more dedicated, and so it's a really, really great opportunity to capitalize on that dedication and turn it into real results during class as well. So here's the Chelsea Snyder channel. We're just going to go ahead and assume that, perhaps this class is basically over. I've been working with Chelsea all day, or, for this whole class. And so towards the end, actually, if I say bye or, see you later, see you next time, it's going to send this. And so, we've got a couple of things going on here, but at the end, only visible to you, the instructor, we have two buttons, View Report and Send Report. So if I click on View Report, and I'm just going to go ahead and drag that into here. If I click on View Report, then I can see this entire report over here. I'm going to make it bigger so I can discuss everything that's going on here. There's a lot here. At the top, we have a few reminders for the students. Sorry, you can read through it. You can see what's going on over there. These pieces of information are very important for everyone to know. A lot of times, it'll come up with the students or the parents. People will ask you, and you can respond because you know this information. But other than that, we don't ever change it. It just stays the same. Up here, we have the persistence level. You can, as the instructor, change this information. So you can look and see, the different levels that we have. And it just sort of depends on, how much you think the student is dedicated to, really sticking to a challenging problem. You'll definitely know if a student just, gives up. So this one preemptively gives up on challenging questions. Anytime something, shows up, the student will be like, I don't know, I don't get it. I don't get it. I don't know. Right? I mean, it's very, very instantaneous and a visceral response for that student. And that's the kind of thing that we do want the parent to know because it does impact the speed at which the, program is going to go. We can work with students on fears like that and things that come up where they're just instantly, I can't do it, oh my goodness. We can work on that, but it does take more time. So, that's a really good thing to let people know. And then these are, you can just roughly estimate, it seems like the student really sticks with it. Yeah, the student just never gives up ever. It's really, really great. Just totally I have to convince the student to change to a drop-down worksheet because they are so dedicated to seeing it through. Something like that is really kind of this upper end of that. So feel free to change that. If you're uncertain, you can always ask a lead instructor. And they'll have a much better idea of kind of where it should be at. And then up here, so these two both are automatically changed as the student goes through the worksheet. So everything that you fill in down below, it will help to automatically update these. These phases are set up, I don't know why there's a typo, but I'll fix that typo later. They're set up to sort of let students and parents know how far you are progressing through the curriculum. Directly below it, we also have percentages, which is just a little bit of an easier numerical milestone, if you will. And so it also sort of tells you how close you are to being ready, right? So ready for your first official attempt at the test. That's really good. You can change these manually, but you should not need to. And then phase 6 is, additional training after the first test. So that does happen sometimes as well. And I'm going to change that back. The next thing that we have is this learning level key over here. So this is going to be the biggest thing that you are going to fill out is the learning level. You can read through these. Basically, 0 is the low end, 7 is the high end. My biggest indicators, the biggest indicators for me are if a student's doing pretty well, I'll put a 4. 5 says, if we scroll over here a little bit, students successfully verified the skill repeatedly. Concept appears to be in long-term memory. So what I will do is make sure that the student can do it over multiple class sessions, so not just one class session, and then also make sure that they can do it quickly. So we do have that speed factor built into our curriculum now, where they have to do each worksheet in 20 minutes or less. And that's always a really good indicator, in my opinion, of being at a level 5. And then level 6 is, applied to new situations. That's pretty much what's going to happen when they get to the practice sections. So the practice sections are not timed, but it does have a whole bunch of new questions. If the student does really well, then I'll bump it up to a 6. If they struggle with a particular topic, then I'll, make a note of that as well. And then for 7, that's going to be when they do practice tests that are timed, right? So we're looking at new situations under high pressure. High pressure is that timed situation, especially if they take home a test and they take, the entire 4-hour test, all together, that kind of thing. That's going to be where that comes in. So if they take that test at home, they come back in, they say, here's what I got, and they did really well on a lot of skills, then you can start to change all those skills to 7s. Most of the time, students aren't really that worried if they don't get above a 5 or a 6, so they're not going to really be particular. But it is just a thing to keep in mind that we can change that for them. So then if we scroll down, we're looking at, right, this column is just the worksheet name. A lot of these worksheet names you will come to recognize and know them very well. The learning level is what we just talked about, so you'll put things like, 3 or 5 or the 7 or whatever, and it'll show up as different colors as well. So students can kind of see, okay, well 1, that's not that great, and 3 is, purple is a fine color, I guess, and 5 is closer to green, everybody likes green, and then 7 is this very green color. You'll also notice that as we went through that, all of these things changed to unfinished. The reason, so this is automatic programming as well. It does that because it knows that if you start to fill in this information, that means that the student has at least started the worksheet. You would, after you say, okay, it was a 1, the student really didn't do very well with this skill, you're going to do, up here it says control, and then a semicolon. And that's going to get you the current date, which is pretty cool. If you add, you can do that for as many things as you want. Maybe they worked on 2 different worksheets on the current date. And then if they did finish it, then you can change that into a 1, right? If they have already finished it once before, usually I'll change it into 1.5, so they're working on it that second time. And then that automatically changes it to orange. So you know that they're sort of on their second attempt, but haven't quite finished it yet. That's really big because these numbers, they kind of fade out of mind when you're looking through, but the word unfinished really stands out. And so in order to make this one also stand out as an unfinished type thing, we've changed this into orange. Also automatic programming, that's a thing that it does. And then the final thing you're going to fill in is the hours spent on this topic. So maybe they spent, 1 hour here, or maybe they spent the full 2-hour session, or maybe it was 1.5 hours, and then on this other worksheet they spent a half hour, and that's kind of how it's going, right? These things, if it changes to a very large number, much bigger than the expected, it will start to change color, right? So if you're at 20 hours, they're kind of oh, well, by the way, maybe you should start to be a little bit concerned about this because it's taking you a lot longer to complete this worksheet than most students do. If you get up real high, it's going to turn red, and it's usually indicative of either a direct attempt not to learn the material or some other just, behavioral issues or whatever else is going on there. And at that point in time, really, we're going to have a conversation with the parent, probably much sooner than we reach this point. And so the parent has some idea of what's going on. So if we scroll down, so that's all of that stuff. I'm going to undo all of these lovely things. If we scroll down, students can also work on math and then reading in the same day. So this is our entire reading sequence. These will not be orange on most of the things that you see, so go ahead and disregard that. But you will see a few things. So for grammar, they are able to sort of choose their destiny, right? Sometimes we'll choose their destiny for them. It just depends on kind of where they seem to be. But we have 3 different types of grammar curricula right now. If you're unsure which one to pick, which you probably will be starting out, definitely just contact a lead instructor and say, hey, what do you think this student should be working on? Most of the time, if you work with a student in grammar, it will have already been picked. So, this is sort of set up already. And now we have these worksheet names in particular. And you can say, okay, well, the student was doing maybe a 4 on this one, and then it's today. And so same process, right? And the hours spent, it was 2 hours. There we go. So very, very similar thing. Anything that's not listed directly in this category, so in our main sequence for math or for reading, shows up down here. So we have the reading responsives. These ones also, sort of function the same way, and anything that you don't see, you can add in, right? In these empty spaces, you can create more empty rows, and that's always the option. And then we have the SAT writing, and down here the badges you don't have to worry about for now, but you can add other subjects. So sometimes students will come in for chemistry or SAT Math 2 or whatever else. And so all that stuff can go down below. Once you have finished filling in this entire thing, right? So now I have finished doing Chelsea Snyder's report. Then I'm going to go back to our Slack over here, and I'm going to click this button, Send Report. And it says, okay, Chelsea was here for 2 hours today. This is a bit predictive, so, verify that it is correct, but most of the time it'll be correct. I say, yep, Chelsea was here for 2 hours today. If there are any important notes, you can include them. Most of the time there are not. A lead instructor will often let you know if there is, an important note to include. Or if at any point during the class you felt like you really needed to bring the lead instructor in, maybe because the student was really misbehaving or being rude or just really, really giving up, or doing any behavior that was sort of out of the ordinary for that student. Those are the types of things that we'll want to include in the important notes. Again, if you're unsure, just always ask the lead instructor. And then you can hit send, and there we go. It is totally done. It sends that email to the parent. I think my parent is actually the Learn at Vora Method email. But that's what it does. And so this is a very important process. If you ever have any questions with it, definitely ask somebody, and then just make sure that you do it for every single student. The cool thing is it will also disappear once you have sent that email. So you've got that going for you as well. Any questions? Ask away, and we'll see you in the next video.